SpongeBob, Sponge on the
Hey.
Run. Directed by Tim Hill, written also by Tim Hill. This movie is basically following SpongeBob and Patrick going across Bikini Bottom to find Gary the Snail, who's been snail napped. They travel across the whole sea and have a weird time doing it, just like the last few movies when they travel across the sea as well, and eventually find themselves in the lost city of Atlantic City to bring Gary home, who's been captured by, I almost said King Neptune, but it's not that person in this movie. It is Poseidon this time. I almost gave it the
Yeah.
wrong one.
I was confused at first because they used like almost the same character design.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
when they saw like, the
anyway.
big buff dude with the tail, like I was just like, oh, it's King Neptune, like Poseidon. Like Poseidon, wow, we're actually gonna get him in these. And he's part of the SpongeBob lore now. Wow. But yes, we're gonna be reviewing SpongeBob Sponge on the Run. Now, the thing about this movie is that this is basically kind of a sort of a setup prequel, sequel. I don't know how to describe this.
It's weird.
It is basically setting up Paramount Plus's new show that you can view right now if you
Yeah.
have a Paramount Plus subscription called SpongeBob Camp Coral, which is the prequel series to the original SpongeBob series. And it basically follows SpongeBob while he's at a summer camp entitled Camp Coral and how he met Sandy, how he met Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs at this camp. And the thing I find funny about this movie is that while it is like a setup to this whole show and it's basically connecting it to there, the show and this movie apparently did not have the same conversation when it came to making Camp Coral correlate to the movie, because the design of the characters are not the same in Camp Coral. I'm probably the only person that really cares about this, but I just found it funny to like actually notice this. If you look at the designs of the characters in Camp Coral, Sandy has glasses and a tutu. When they do the flashback in this movie, which I'll get to later, she doesn't have the glasses, she doesn't have the tutu. Squidward has glasses, he plays the clarinet. In the show, Squidward is actually a camp counselor there. He's like a teenager, he's not a kid. Mr. Krabs owns like a food shack that makes the Krabby Patties. In the show, he's actually the camp counselor. It's just like, man, you guys, like, this whole thing was to basically sell this show, and you guys were shoving it down our throats that, yeah, this is gonna happen, and you don't even have the movie and the show correlate with one another on how this is working. And also, the animation on the SpongeBob Camp Coral show looks like complete shit. I mean, like, I don't mean like to jump the gun on swearing here, but like the animation on that show is bad. For the movies, though, and Dom, I don't know if you agree with me on this. I actually thought the animation in the film was actually kind of good. I thought like
I low key loved it.
yeah, like it is different than we normally get with SpongeBob, but it was animated so well. I actually really enjoyed how this looked. And there's some really good scenes here where like they're going across Bikini Bottom and just the details in SpongeBob's house at the Krusty Krab, like seeing the rust on the tables or the wood like scraping off. It was like, man, this is actually a really neat animation style to see with SpongeBob, where we get to see just a little bit more detail to Bikini Bottom. It was something really cool. And then eventually, when you do get to the lost city of Atlantic City, it straight up looks like Vegas. It's modeled after Vegas. It looks really cool. I have to say, the animators did a great job there as well. The animation was something I noticed a lot of people when the trailers were first being shown for this movie. A lot of people were complaining about it, and from the trailers I was like, I'm willing to give it a chance. Like, it's a new take, a new different look to SpongeBob, which is fine. You know, the last movie they did, I forgot the name of it, but they did the whole live action thing where SpongeBob comes into our world as a superhero at the very end of the movie, but the rest of the film is just the normal 2D classic style. I was open to this, and I actually thought the animation looked good. Dom, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, for this really for just the whole review overall, I was like, okay, take off your nostalgia glasses. You know,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna ever beat the first. Nothing will ever beat, in my eyes, the first 3-4 seasons of the show. You know,
And in
it's
the
like,
original
everything.
movie too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, nothing's gonna beat that. Just calm down, give it a chance, and just take it for what it is, which is kind of sad in one way, but it is what it is. So yeah, but the thing I think the strongest point, we might agree, is going to be the animation here, because it's pretty damn good. I was really surprised by the blend of like 2D, 3D, and it like the shine on things. And again, we're not animators, so I'm sure there's a lot of technical terms we could be using, but just the way it looks has it keeps the spirit of the old while going in a different direction for this film, which I really appreciate. Like, yeah, you could have easily done the classic 2D style, but even that is starting to grate on me, particularly because it's like, oh, SpongeBob's design has changed. Like, that's not the real SpongeBob. Again, nostalgia glasses. We could go off on a tangent about that, but let's avoid it. Yeah, it's definitely was the strongest point. There was a point here, and this might lead into things for the story and whatnot. But I was thinking to myself, is this animated too well? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is going on here? Because the first 20 minutes, the exposition, right? Or really, it's just like a recap of like, hey, this is how the show feels.
Yeah.
In case
if you've never watched SpongeBob, this is SpongeBob.
Yeah, this is the status quo. It really did feel like they were doing like a reboot or something, or like, hey, this is our normal. And as they were going through that, I was just thinking, like, is this like animated too well, or is it something about the humor? I think it's the pacing. I don't know, Joe. Do you think this is paced like too fast, or like the jokes are too rapid fire,
So this is the thing: is that I don't watch what SpongeBob is now because I've grown up. I just kind of grew out of it. Those first 4 seasons. If you go back and you watch those episodes, you have the opening part. It's the setup to the episode. SpongeBob needs to get a job. You have the mill stuff. It actually has a 3-act structure within that 10-minute time period. They actually managed to do that. 12-minute, 13-minute. They managed to do a 3-act structure within that. Whenever I went to my cousin's house and they turn on SpongeBob, it is now the randomness comedy hour, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what SpongeBob has become. And sometimes that can work. I've watched a few of the newer episodes, and I thought, that is funny as hell, and that is really creative. There's one episode where SpongeBob and Squidward, and you can find clips of this online, they go into an alternate dimension where they find doors to different dimensions of Bikini Bottom. And it's actually really really and funny. It's wacky, it's random, but it fits. That kind of humor fits that style of episode. When it's just an episode of them working at the Krusty Krab and SpongeBob's got to steal the Plankton's got to steal the formula for the 200th time, it doesn't work. It's just random. Yeah. There's too many fart jokes. SpongeBob and Patrick just running around screaming. There's too much of that. That's my biggest issue with this movie is that the pacing of it, I do kind of agree with you. I don't mind that it's moving so fast because it's just it's fine, and if we can get in and out with a movie, that's totally fine. But the comedy in this film is all over the place. There's times where there's a good Kenny G joke with Squidward that actually had me cracking up throughout the movie. Even the title of Atlantic City, the lost city of Atlantic City. That was funny. There's a few throwaway lines here, just a few quick quips that are actually really funny. But the gags, the whole setup sequences that we have to take 10 minutes to do this whole scenario, this whole joke. When you get to the live action sequence with Keanu Reeves and they go into the western town and
the saloon,
the saloon, that whole thing to me just did not work. You have basically SpongeBob and Patrick need to basically get courage, and by getting courage, they need to go into a saloon to defeat El Diablo, who I won't ruin the cameo of that character. But they go in there and they have to also deal with zombie pirates, cowboys, and something other that's another.
That was
zombie.
Such a weird sequence because it's again, SpongeBob had live action aspects before. That's fair game. There's probably people who are like, "Oh, you use live action." No, that's fair game. No.
They go on scene. They're little puppets. We've seen that tons of times. Even the first movie, they did that with David Hasselhoff.
Exactly. That's totally cool. But I'm thinking of that David Hasselhoff scene now. But I don't know. I think it was there was some celebrity cameos back to back where it's okay, sure, you're relating on this. There's a dance sequence and a song sequence. The quick aside about the use of music in this movie,
dude. This is how you know SpongeBob's changed from when it's gone to the orchestral doon, 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 to just Weezer. Wait, what?
Yeah, okay. The opening song and the ending song was what the hell? This is some This is some blue sky bullshit.
Yes, it
This
really
is some
is.
like DreamWorks bullshit. This is above you, dude. But then, but I will say, the Live in La Vida Loca scene at Atlantic City, that actually got me going.
Oh my god, I
I
haven't
actually
heard that
appreciate
song in so long. It was just like
that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why.
I was like, no way, we're actually gonna hear "Livin' La Vida Loca." Like it's been
I
like
dug it.
I don't even know like how long it's been since I've seen that in another movie. I think like Shrek 2 might have been the last movie I've seen
Yeah.
that in. Or like My Heart Will Go On. I thought that like that also ties into the Kenny G
Yeah.
joke.
There are some aspects where it's like where it was used properly. But like in other ways, it's like, what are you doing here? So yeah, the opening song where it's like a generic like pop punk song,
Yeah.
in the case of Weezer, a cover of
Take on Me.
the weirdest cover of, yeah, exactly, taking like, okay, sure, I guess. It's like this, yeah, this feels like some Illumination bullshit that you're doing here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like
That's what I was about to say. It feels like Illumination. They would start off with some pop song from like any other, like even like the Addams Family movie. I know that wasn't done by Illumination, but like those kind of studio films where they're just like, we'll get somebody to do the soundtrack, and that's how we'll sell this movie with soundtrack and just wackiness, like.
And it's like, hey, this will appeal to the kids.
Yeah.
And like, no. And that actually leads me into kind of the heart of my gripes with this movie, which is like, and probably later SpongeBob overall, which is like, okay, yeah, that's probably been a whole thing, but yeah, it's like, it's just, it feels you can tell when it's really trying to be a kids movie.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really unfortunate, because the beauty of, and this has been said to death, and we don't mean to say that SpongeBob is high art on the level of Mona Lisa or anything, or Breaking Bad.
I would say
But,
those
like,
first 4 seasons are like some of the like gold standards for like animation, like family
Yes.
animation, including
For
the
sure.
original
100
film too.
Absolutely. But like, you can feel that difference. I think you can feel that difference. And I'll even go as far as to say that kids who grew up on later SpongeBob, and even this movie and Camp Coral, sadly enough, which is
If you
really
grew up on
kids.
Camp Coral, you need to reevaluate your child. Like
It's kids for kids. You know, it's really, animation has always been a way for adults that don't have enough time on their hands to raise their to babysit their children. Same thing with video games, right?
yeah.
But I guess we just got really lucky. And again, I'm putting, I have my nostalgia glasses on. I'm putting on my superiority hat, and I really don't mean to drive that home, but you can feel it through this film. Through, yeah, exactly, the random humor, the questionable use of some music, and it almost feels like it has this movie in particular. I need to go back and watch the 04 SpongeBob movie, but like this movie, I don't want to say it has too much heart. But like they're really laying into like the lessons, like
Yeah.
the lessons for the kids, or like, hey, let's come together, let's do all that. Whereas like I feel like nostalgia glasses, I feel like the early SpongeBob didn't do that as much, right? It was like, hey, this was the humor, this was the joke, partially because it has a shorter time frame to do it, so it was snappier in that way. Not that Sponge on the Run has any lacking in snappiness, but just the way that snappiness blends with is trying to blend with the more sentimental moments. I feel like it didn't jive with me as well as I thought it would.
I don't want to sound like this overall. It's not a bad movie. Like I didn't hate it.
No, it's not.
Like like, there's tons of people that I knew like when they saw the trailers for this, and even Camp Coral. But Camp Coral deserves that hate. I've watched the first 2 episodes. I'm like, yeah, this is garbage.